boys and girls. Happy Wednesday. And I just came on here to tell you guys that this is going to be my last YouTube video. Okay. So guess what? April Fools. It's also April 1st and I had to do a fun joke with you. So this is not my last YouTube video. You guys are stuck with me for a while. So I do have something to say though, and it's not April Fool's. There's no joke and there's no fun fact today because I found a really cute story that I think you guys will enjoy, but it's a little on the longer side, so I don't want to make this video too long with a long book and facts and jokes. So all jokes aside, I'm going to read this cool story for you on Wednesday, April 1st. So yesterday I stayed outside in the sun after I did my video with you because it was so beautiful out and I didn't want to come inside. I just wanted to enjoy the sun all I could. And as you can see, I got a little bit of, you can see the lines. I got a little bit of sun. So it felt good, but today I'm kind of like warm. So that's why I'm doing it inside. So here we go. I'm in the comfort of my living room on the couch and I am going to read you guys a cool story. It's called The Old Woman Who Named Things. And there she is. The Old Woman Who Named Things by Cynthia Rylant, illustrated by Catherine Brown. And it starts off with a picture of a fence, or a gate, I should say. Fence with a gate. Once there was an old woman who loved to name things. She named the old car she drove, Betsy. She named the old chair she sat in, Fred. She named the old bed she slept on, Roxanne. And she named her old house, Franklin. So there she is. And that's her car, Betsy. Every morning she would get out of Roxanne, have a cup of cocoa in Fred, lock up Franklin, and drive to the post office in Betsy. She always hoped for a letter from someone, but all she ever got was bills. The reason the old woman never got any letters was because she had outlived every single one of her friends. That means she's really old. This worried her. She didn't like the idea of being a lonely old woman without any friends, without anyone whom she could call by name. And I don't like this pillow behind me because it looks like it's coming out of my ears. So she began to name things. But she named, oh wait, was there a picture? Oh yeah, there's the house. And there's Betsy. So she began to name things, but she named only those things she knew she could never outlive. Her car, Betsy, had more get up and go than anything around. Her chair, Fred, had never sagged a day in his life. Not one creak or moan had she ever heard out of her old bed, Roxanne. And her house, Franklin, had been standing straight for over 100 years and still didn't look a day past 20. There's her living room. There's her house. The old woman never worried about outliving any of them, and her days were happy. One day when the old woman was out soaping some mud off Betsy, telling her that Franklin wouldn't want to be seen with a car that didn't keep its bumpers a little cleaner, a shy brown puppy came to the old woman's gate. The old woman had not named the gate because two of its hinges had rusted off, and she could tell the gate wasn't long for this world. The shy brown puppy wagged its tail. It looked a little hungry. The old woman stood beside Betsy and watched the puppy for a while. She said. Do you think she might want to name the puppy? That's my guess. Then she walked into Franklin, got a chunk of ham from her refrigerator, and came back outside. I wonder why she didn't name her refrigerator. The old woman gave the ham to the hungry puppy and told it to go home. She told it that Betsy always made puppies sick, and Fred never allowed puppies to sit on him, and Roxanne wasn't wide enough for a puppy and an old woman to fit on. And besides all this, Franklin couldn't tolerate dog hair. So the puppy went away. So there she is with the puppy, and there goes the puppy. Bye-bye, puppy. Oh, that was when she was giving him the chunk of ham. But the next day, the puppy was back. The old woman was sitting in Fred, reading a book on everlasting flowers when she saw the puppy through her window. "Go home," she called to the puppy. The puppy wagged its tail when it saw her. "Go home," she called again. But the puppy just kept on wagging. The old woman noticed that it still looked a little hungry, so she went to her refrigerator. She gave the puppy a hunk of cheese and 2 biscuits. Then she told it to go home. The puppy went away. So maybe the puppy just wants food. But there she is right there. See the puppy in the window? You have to get close, close, close. There's the puppy in the window. She's telling it to go away. And then it doesn't go away until she gives it what did she give it? Oh, cheese and 2 biscuits. Then it went away. That night, as the old woman plumped up the pillows on Roxanne, she thought about the puppy. It was a very nice puppy, she thought. It was a very pretty puppy, she thought. But it couldn't stay. If it stayed, she would have to give it a name. And it could never last as long as Franklin or Fred or Betsy or Roxanne. She might outlive it. And she didn't want to risk that. She didn't want to outlive any more friends. She would just keep telling it to go home. So there she is, getting ready for bed and just trying to think about what she should do. Every day, the shy brown puppy came to the old woman's gate. Every day, she fed it and told it to go home. Always it went away, and always it came back the next day. This went on for many months. The puppy got bigger and bigger until soon it wasn't a puppy anymore. It was a dog. And it was still a dog with no name. And all this time, the old woman had gotten a new dresser that she had. And all this time, the old woman had gotten a new dresser that she had named Bill, a new wheelbarrow that she had named Francine, and a new concrete pig for her garden that she had named Bud. But the dog she faithfully fed at her gate every day still had no name. Since it had no name, the old woman didn't have to worry about outliving it, and she thought herself pretty clever at this. So there you can see the dog's big now. It's not a puppy anymore. And there's her concrete pig. Right there. Which she named Bud. Bud the pig. Then one day, the shy brown dog did not come to the old woman's house. She sat in Fred and watched the gate all day long, but the dog never came. The old woman felt sad. The next day again, the dog did not come. The old woman drove Betsy around town looking for the dog, but she did not find it. The old woman felt even sadder. So be careful what you wish for, right? She didn't want the dog. She kept telling him to go away, and now he went away, and she's sad. There she is, sitting in her house, looking out her window, waiting for the dog. Still no dog. And then there she is in her car, driving around looking for him. The following day, when still the dog did not come, the old woman knew she had to do something. She picked up her telephone and called the dog catcher. "Have you caught any shy brown dogs?" the old woman asked the dog catcher. "We've got a whole kennel full of shy brown dogs, ma'am," said the dog catcher. "Was yours wearing a collar with its name on it?" "No," the old woman said sadly, and she hung up the telephone. So there she is calling the dog catcher with no luck. The old woman sat and thought about the shy brown dog who had no collar with no name. Wherever it was, no one would know that it was supposed to come to the old woman's gate every day, that she was supposed to feed it and tell it to go home every day, that things were always supposed to be this way. The shy brown dog had no collar and no name, and no one would ever be able to know these things about it. The old woman made a decision. She locked up Franklin and drove Betsy to the dog catcher's kennel. She said to the dog catcher, there she is at her house making this decision. She's thinking. She goes back to the kennel, and what does she say to the dog catcher? Well, here's what she says. She says, "I've come to find my dog." He asked her what color it was. "It's brown," she said. Then he asked her how old it was. "About a year old," she said. Then he asked her what its name was. Oopsie, she doesn't know the name. The old woman thought a moment. She thought of all the old dear friends with names whom she had outlived. She saw their smiling faces and remembered their lovely names. And she thought how lucky she had been to have known these friends. She thought what a lucky old woman she was. What do you think the name is? Lucky. Lucky, my dog's name is Lucky, she told the dog catcher. So there she is showing up at the kennel. And then she's just thinking about, what should I name it? And then after all of her memories, she realized how lucky she was. So she named the dog Lucky. He led her to a big yard full of white dogs and black dogs and brown dogs. The old woman looked and looked and looked. And finally, she saw her own shy brown dog sitting beside a gate. The dog was looking at Betsy, parked in the driveway. She recognized the car. The old woman called out, "Here, Lucky." And at the sound of her voice, the shy brown dog came running. So there she is with the dog catcher and all the other dogs. Dogs, 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 dogs. And then there is Betsy, her car. And then you can see Lucky recognized the car and was like looking at the car. And even though maybe Lucky wasn't the dog's name, the dog recognized the lady's voice. So that's how she knew. From that day on, Lucky lived with the old woman, and he always came when his name was called. It turned out that Betsy didn't make all dogs sick, and Fred was happy to allow a dog to sit on him. Franklin really didn't mind a little dog hair. So there they are in the car, and you can see Lucky sticking his head out the window and looking excited to go home, to his new home. And every night, Roxanne was sure to make herself plenty wide enough for a shy, brown, lucky dog and the old woman who named him. And there they are, going to sleep. And that is the end of that story. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. And I hope you guys have a great first day of April. I still miss you. Miss you more today than I did yesterday. Tomorrow I'll miss you even more. I don't know what to say about that. But, you know, you still gotta be happy and enjoy this weather because it is beautiful, and maybe even get a little suntan, but just make sure you wear sunscreen. I did, but I probably didn't put that much on. And that's all I have for today. So, bye. Dang it, it never goes on the first time. Bye.